Keith Fitzpatrick. I'm from Watertown, Wisconsin, and I served in the Army for 25 years. I started out enlisted in the National Guard. I was a cannon crewman. Then I went on active duty, enlisted as a cavalry scout. Then I went to college and was an ordnance officer for the most of my career. So I started off doing munitions, material management. So I actually went to a nuclear unit and I was responsible for recoding nuclear weapons for about two and a half years. After that, I switched over to maintenance, and so ordnance has maintenance or ammunition fields. So I served with the 32nd Infantry Brigade in the Wisconsin Army National Guard, and then 101st Airborne Division, 2nd Infantry Division in Korea, 9th Infantry Division at Fort Lewis, Washington. When I became officer, I went to the 59th Ordnance Brigade in Germany. Then I went to Fort Bragg, where I worked in 1st Corps Support Command, worked in Saudi Arabia as a military advisor, back to the 101st, back to Saudi Arabia as a military advisor, and I finally retired out of Fort McPherson in 3rd Army. You know, the best time of my career was when I was enlisted in the regular Army at Fort Campbell. I was in the 101st Airborne Division, Air Cav Squadron, and I mean, it's not one event, but that entire 18 months of adventure. So a 19-year-old kid doing reconnaissance, flying around in helicopters. I got to go to air assault school. I got to go to jungle warfare school down in Panama. And then I was selected for this program, this Aero Scout program. So on the small observer helicopters, they used to have 2 pilots, but you only need 1 pilot. So they put a Cav Scout in with a pilot, and we would navigate and call in all the enemy activity. So very few, just a handful of Cav Scouts got to do that. So that was really, really exciting. By that time I was an ordnance officer, so I was in supply chain, logistics. So in Somalia, we were part of the United Nations Logistics Support Command, so we supported the US forces there, but also all the United Nations forces all over Somalia. And I was actually there during the whole Black Hawk Down incident. I was based at the university compound, so it was kind of an interesting day for us because you're so insulated on your base when you're a logistics guy. And we could see smoke, we could see helicopters, and we went up on top of our building and they told us to get off the building because bullets were flying, so you can't see them in the daylight. But that evening, you could start seeing tracers were coming across the city. We're about 1.5 miles away, and they would pass over our building, and we saw why they were telling us to get off the buildings. I never was engaged in combat. That was my experience in Somalia. For Iraqi Freedom, I actually went in October of 2002. I went to Kuwait. I was in 3rd Army, and we planned the ground war. And my job there was to get new technology to the guys in the field. So after the invasion was successful, what would happen is the guys in the field would say, hey, I could probably do a better job if I had this tool, this counter battery radar, this IED blocking, radio blocker. And I would send a memo to the Pentagon, and sure enough, there was always something on the shelf. This concept of service, of selfless service. And my dad, who was in the Air Force for 28 years, he kind of raised us that way, and it's just extended while I served in the military. It wasn't about me, it was about everybody I served with, and we were out there actually helping people. And we were away from our families on holidays. It was not the greatest conditions, but we were there to help people and defend our country, and that selfless service has stuck with me the whole time. My advice is, as always, think of the greater good. Think of the greater good of our country. Don't worry about yourself. If you do what's right, you're going to come out on top anyway. So, love your country, treat other people with respect, and you'll have a lot of rewards from it.